Hello, and welcome to Story Hour with Miss Barbara. Today I want to recite a poem for you. It's called I'll Tell You How the Sun Rose by Emily Dickinson. This is the very first poem I ever memorized, and I've only memorized about 3 of them, so that tells you how important this one is to me. So I hope you will enjoy it. I'll tell you how the sun rose, a ribbon at a time. The steeples swam in amethyst. The news like squirrels ran. The hills undid their bonnets. The bobolinks begun. Then I said softly to myself, that must have been the sun. But how he set, I do not know. There seemed a purple stile that little yellow boys and girls were climbing all the while, till when they reached the other side, a dominie in grey put gently up the evening bars and led the flock away. So what kind of a feeling did you get from Emily Dickinson's poem? Well, you can tell it's about sunrise and sunset and the difference between them. And I think it's also um, like Robert Frost's poem, Stopping by Woods on a Snowy Evening. She also uses ordinary language and poetic language. And she does it in a slightly different way than he does. But by doing that, I feel like she is bringing the poetic into ordinary life. She's using ordinary words to bring us into a feeling of the ordinary, of the real world. But then she slips into the poetic language to transport us just beyond that real world. And what about the difference between the two stanzas? Well, in the first stanza, it seems like the poetic language kind of climaxes in the middle. But then the stanza ends with ordinary language, but kind of a special ordinary language, an ordinary language that's been transformed. So she starts out, I'll tell you how the sun rose, ordinary language, a ribbon at a time. And you can just see the bands of color coming into the sky early morning. The steeples swam in amethyst. So she uses that purple color, but it's a light reddish purple color. The news like squirrels ran. Again, it's poetic, but it's still ordinary in a sense because squirrels are ordinary and the news is running like squirrels, but ordinary in a sense of nature. The hills undid their bonnets. So you picture the hills, the tops of the hills, um, going just as though they were taking off their hats. And then she says, the bobolinks begun. Because, of course, they've already began singing before it got light. And then I said softly to myself, that must have been the sun. Ordinary but transported ordinary. But we go to the second stanza and she goes back to very ordinary language again. But how he set, I do not know. There seemed a purple style, so you can picture, again, it's getting poetic, but it's still an ordinary thing, a style used in a field to keep cows out but allow people to get through. And you can kind of just picture the bars of brownish gray coming into the landscape. But then she adds this, that little yellow boys and girls were climbing all the while. So there's that yellow brightness in the sunset that reminds Emily Dickinson of children laughing and playing. So there's this time right before the end of the day where you can hear the birds, they get louder. And if you have children, you notice a renewed burst of energy comes upon them. There's this sort of playful time right before bed. And I think she captures that wonderfully with the little yellow boys and girls climbing all the while. Till when they reach the other side, so you get this feeling of a transition, an other side. A dominie in gray, and suddenly there's this tall figure in gray, a religious figure. I think of it as a woman because I went to a Catholic school with nuns, but it could be a man like a rector in a church or a monk in a monastery, a dominie. So a holy feeling is now entering into the ending of the day. Till when they reach the other side, a dominie in gray put gently up the evening bars. There's nothing harsh about this dominie. It's gentle, it's holy, and led the flock away. So how did Emily Dickinson use rhyme in her poem? You look at the first stanza and there really isn't much rhyme there. It seems pretty free form, except for the line, the last two lines where it goes, the bobolinks begun. So it's kind of a surprising word, begun. Oh, that's right, they've already started singing. Then I said softly to myself, that must have been the sun. So by using a little bit of rhyme right there, she's really bringing the poetic into that ordinary language, that transformed ordinary language at the end. Now, how does she use rhyming words in the second stanza? Well, here she reverts to a very common use of rhyme. So it's kind of like where every other line rhymes. So it's, but how he said, I do not know, that would be A. There seemed a purple, would be B. That little yellow boys and girls, C, all three are different, were climbing all the while. Well, that goes back to B. So it's A, B, C, B. Next part. Until when they reached the other side, that would be A, B, C, B. That would be D. A dominie in gray, E. Put gently up the evening bars, that's F. And led the flock away. That's E again. So it's D, E, F, E. And I think her use of rhyme, more of a use of rhyme in the second part, in the second stanza, to go with the end of the day, gives us a gentle, flowing, rhythmic feeling like you want to have at the end of the day. Whereas her not using rhyme in the first stanza, the free verse, is more of an awakening kind of experience. So I think she uses rhyme very astutely in this poem. And when she gets to that last line, and led the flock away, I have the feeling of the day departing. Everything is now turned gray, and it's dusk, and the day is gone, and it's peaceful. But with that line of led the flock away, they've gone somewhere, and you don't know where. And I feel as the listener, I've gone somewhere profound that I can't even describe. So maybe that's why this is one of my favorite poems. I hope you enjoyed listening to it. And maybe I can do the third one next time. Thank you.